troop ship with a 15-month-old, a Siberian Husky, and a diaper bag. That was fun.
That's military life.
That's the military life. It's the military life.
Oh, it's going on in Hawaii right
Oh,
now.
yeah.
I think they were reporting 140 mile an hour winds with.
Because this is turned off, so it doesn't.
They also
ring
have
even
the
out.
audio stack, so that's the same thing. So that they get a 360 view. And
And he said,
also
she might email.
Yeah, I ended up doing the same thing.
Mark my words, for 3 months and you see it on TV. So
did you want something?
I don't.
Yeah, I'm waiting for her to come back in before I do anything.
Live to sign up for something like that.
Did you want this one?
Is that yours?
Yeah.
Bucky's would be more. Maybe even Chris Traeger.
This is Jason. You want what it is?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, you back? Okay. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. For quorum, we are missing Councilman Place 6, Chris Goff, and Councilman Place 4, Zach Brown. Okay, so we do have 4, which meets quorum. Okay. So we'll start with the regular agenda items. Is 2A is discuss and consider the process for the performance evaluation of city manager, city attorney, and municipal court judge. I'd like to start with backwards. We're going to go municipal court judge, city attorney, and city manager. So I will open this up for discussion on the municipal court judge part of this.
Mayor, I did a little bit of research, if I may give some background.
Yes.
Thank you, Sandra, for doing a little bit of research. I had a conversation with Judge Dolnay last week to ask him how this is handled in other cities. And the short version of a much longer series of conversations is that Judge Dolnay was appointed in 2021 to a term of 2 years. Probably should have been renewed 2023, 2025. That would be upcoming for renewal in 2027. There are carry forward provisions, so we're covered, but at some point administratively, we should just make sure that that gets on a calendar. But the way that he does this for other cities is that at the time that he would be reappointed, he sits down with council and municipal court staff and has a conversation about how the court is going generally. It's not really an evaluation per se. There are some judicial statutes that imply that we might not be able to remove him at will. That's a little murky. So an evaluation is maybe not appropriate. But more as a sort of a feedback thing. I did also speak with the city of New Braunfels. They do annual reviews of their city attorney, municipal judge, and city manager, and they sent me the form that they use for this for the judge. So if at some point we decide we want to go down there, we at least got something to start with that's currently in use with another city. Anybody else?
Well, that's a good idea, yeah, when you go to the new contract, sit down, have the court staff and the judge, but, you know, we're not entirely privy to the day-to-day operation of the court, so I think that, yeah, that's a better way to handle that.
And there are arguments about judicial independence that we probably should
Sure.
get into that too.
I made a phone call to a couple of mayors, neighboring mayors also. They actually don't do it at all. They do it upon their renewal of their contract. And they do a review of how things are going with the judge every year. I think Councilman Watson, if I remember correctly, a year ago, you did meet with him to discuss what was going on in the judge's area and with his staff.
I met with him, I met with municipal court staff and Ms. Ham to kind of get a sense, baseline of how things were going. In my conversation with him last week, he said things were about the same.
So I understand that what month in 27 would his contract be up?
May.
So it will automatically, correct, does a renew?
If we don't
For the-
renew within a certain amount of days, it automatically.
So it automatically, because obviously we're in August.
Yes.
Okay, so the next one would be 29. So, oh, excuse me, 27, I'm sorry. I'm a year ahead on myself. But yes, can we get that on a calendar, to be able to have that on our radar, to know that we can do that prior to and not miss the date again?
Yes.
Since we didn't know when that was up. And, so obviously, I guess where we are on this, let me ask procedures tonight. Procedures tonight would be, can we separate those three things? I mean, or are we gonna vote all on 2A together? Or can we separate that, what we are gonna decide on the municipal court judge, what we decide on city attorney, and then what we decide on, how do we do that?
So it's up for discussion, I think, it's the way the motion goes.
Okay.
I think we split them up. I think that's easiest.
Well, that's kind of what I want to do on there. So I'm going to make a motion that we split these three items into separate categories, please. And so the first one will be for municipal court judge. I guess I'll need a second on that.
What's the motion again?
The motion was to separate these three items into
Oh,
three
so we need a
separate items.
motion to
But then we
separate.
would vote on the process.
So we can
this
vote
is
on the
to
process.
separate them
Yes.
into individual motion.
Correct.
Individual
Correct.
action. Okay. Yeah,
Yes,
I'll
sir.
second that.
Okay, all in favor? Aye, so unanimous? Okay, so, I think the motion for the municipal court judge, would be that we would not do a evaluation for the municipal court judge at this time, and do it at the time of the renewal of the contract.
For his reappointment, maybe.
The reappointment, how is that? Is it a review of contract terms? Is that how we would do that? I see you over there shaking your head, yes. Okay.
Well, the charter division
Right.
Yes.
If I could add something in
Yes.
there.
Prior to,
We're talking about council sitting down with municipal court staff to get feedback. I am opposed to that. And I think that does a couple of things from my perspective. A strict interpretation of the charter is that staff or council shall deal with staff through the office of the city manager. I think sitting down with the court staff
muddies the water. And I think if you want,
That staff is staff of the city, correct? Yes,
Yeah.
it's my staff from front
Yeah, that's a valid.
front office.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I was making the motion of is not to sit down and do that, but to relook at this a couple months before it comes up due.
okay,
That's what I was thinking, like 90 days before it's due, to have a idea of how we're going to do that or how it should be done at that point in
But is-
27.
But is court staff present or not present?
No, that's what we would talk about the 90 days prior to.
okay,
Can I ask a question
yes,
in that context? I don't disagree with you. I found it very valuable to get direct feedback from municipal staff. I met with them last year. And given that we have so little practical insight into the workings of the court, what other alternatives, if you're uncomfortable, and I understand why you would be uncomfortable, what other options are available to council to get some insight into how court as a whole is functioning?
The city manager could give us a report 90 days ahead of time.
yeah, I could either do that myself, or I would ask you to meet with Sandra as basically the department head over court. She would do the legwork with staff
Okay,
and be able to highlight that and provide that with you.
Yeah.
But I would also add this to the conversation that, and again, please understand that I'm not trying to critique, it's not my place to critique. But I think if there are council members who haven't watched a court process, that is extremely valuable to actually sit in and watch the court process and how that proceeds. And I think there's a lot of valuable insight that can come from that. So that would help out greatly. And then again, sitting down with the department head, I think would, I could agree with that, but to sit down with the actual court clerks. And again, my basis for that is, if we go that full measure, I think it becomes confusing for staff who they work for.
understood.
That makes sense, yeah.
And
Matt,
so,
I was just gonna suggest the approach he's taking, it ultimately, if you wanted to be one-on-one with executive session,
one-on-one
with individual employees,
we could,
under an executive session, under 074.
I don't know.
I don't know that we would still want to work through the city manager. I don't know what that would. That's,
No.
That's the only other way, but what I'm saying is, I think the way he's.
I see,
You
I
could
see,
department
I
head.
see.
so
My understanding is you could meet with staff, or council meets only through the auspices of an investigation.
Right.
And we're not.
We're not.
And we're not
So-
investigating anybody.
back to where we are, let's bring it back in. So can we get it on a calendar that we're looking at that, we can look at that 90 days prior to the contract coming up due and make a decision on how
Yes, we
we
can.
want to do that.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So my
So-
motion is that is my motion. I need a second on that.
Let's
So
put it in February.
that would put that in February, right?
So the second meeting in February, or
Um,
just a meeting in February?
a meeting in February,
Let's do
whenever.
that. Typically, council agendas aren't real busy
Yep.
in the winter months, so
Yep.
I would think that regular meeting in February would be just fine.
February should be perfect timing. Yes,
I would also say that might line up with your budget planning, it's a lot of times this helps. free up
absolutely.
planning For the budget for the next year.
Because we'll be able to know if it's going up or not.
So the motion to clarify, is to make a decision 90 days before the contract and all.
The motion is to get a meeting set up 90 days prior to the contract being due to discuss where we are with that and what we need to do with that 90 days ahead of time.
And that's
so
the
that we
only
have time.
concern we're meeting with or
Yes.
anything.
We'll talk all about that in the 90 days in February, okay? Because it may not even be the same people at that point. Okay? All right,
So there's not gonna be any action or any.
there will be
review
no
process
action
in
on
city
the municipal
right
court,
now,
correct?
Currently for this, I mean, there's no sense in doing it.
Well, we can't, he's in contract already.
Right, so there's no sense.
So, yeah, so just 90 days prior, we'll get it on the contract list, like we have the rest of our contracts are finally getting on the list to
Can I-
review.
Can I add something to that, Mayor? I'm sorry, to that request, if we're gonna wait till the 90 days? Because there are some statutory nuances around the appointment of a judge, can we get some recommendations from council about I wanna make sure we don't overstep.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I say that if we just talk about it and meet at those 90 days, then we can get everything that we need. Who,
Okay.
if you want to talk to somebody, if something's not going right, we'll all know that because between now and then, a lot of things can change. Right? Okay. So I have that motion on the table too.
Yeah, I'm on board with this.
Okay. So you want a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
You on board with that, council? I mean, does that sound feasible?
You know, I don't know why we can't make that decision now, but that's fine. So,
So all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Okay, so we got through the municipal court. All right, let's move on to the city attorney. So I'll start down here.
The city attorney, I think, so my take would be evaluation in a format of being official, like a point system evaluation is difficult because the attorney is not like an employee like the city manager. However, I do think that as a council, we need to address how the approach and information of, let's say, low performance needs to be conveyed to the attorney, or unsatisfactory performance. And, you know, with attorneys, you know, time's of the essence. So, I mean, I think it's time, you know, reporting and how we go about conveying that to the attorney if and when there's an issue. You know, are things going well? If they are, we can, you know, say they're going well. If there are improvements that need to be made, where do they need to be made at? And then as a body, submit that to the attorney. My 2 cents take on the attorney.
Councilman Hawkins.
There's a lot there. There's an expectation for how well the attorney is representing the city. Not just the individual council, but representing the city. And then there's also an expectation of how well the council believes that the attorney is representing the city. Those could be 2 different, sometimes widely varying scenarios based upon experience, personal experience, a subjective experience. Just in thinking about the whole thing, it's been kind of challenging for me to actually be able to successfully articulate how I feel that we should do it. Other than the thing that struck me as most important is how well is our legal firm and our attorney fulfilling the expectations that we as a council set. For me, that's probably the most important. And it might, and that's subjective, because in an objective fashion, perhaps the most important thing is how well is our attorney and our legal firm representing the city. And those 2 things just vary for me.
yeah, they are different.
So it's kind of challenging for me to say what is the most important, other than I know we talk a little bit and try to make some changes about how we want to set expectations for our attorney, how we do it. I guess I'm going to say there should be some objective expectations as well as some subjective ones. And the evaluation forms that I've seen are most all subjective. There's really not much objective. So, I don't want to get in the middle of doing a performance appraisal. I just haven't seen anything.
Councilman Watson.
Can I ask, I'd like to ask Ted a question. Do you have any sense of what objective criteria would be? Or are you just saying that there should be we should establish some objective criteria as well as the subject?
I think we should establish some, but in general, just being continually appraised of the legal environment surrounding the city And those kinds of issues, particularly forward-looking ones, add some value, the things that we're thinking about, and also having continual knowledge of everything that's on our plate also has some value. So yeah, I guess I would think I would want to add a couple of ones, just to give me more of a warm fuzzy when I'm actually doing an evaluation, that not everything that I'm evaluating is based on how I feel. It's based on actual performance over a specified period of time, whatever that is.
So, I have a few thoughts about this. I think the charter says that the city attorney represents the city, but is appointed by council, and I think that that's a fine distinction. City attorney doesn't represent council, it represents the entity. The charter says that the city attorney serves as the chief legal advisor to the council, city manager, directors of city departments, and other city officers and agencies. And so I think the feedback needs to come from that constituency, not just council. So that's my first comment. I think that staff, department directors should weigh in, and my assumption is that you would prefer to collect that information and speak on behalf of staff. But
Yes.
that might look something like council and the city manager sitting in a room and hashing out what we want to request of the city attorney going forward, and what our joint assessment is of their work for us thus far. And then going forward, obviously, because we've not set that criteria to this point, to set the criteria for the coming year or the coming period, whatever we decide that is, so that we sort of have a starting point. But that would be my recommendation. I agree with Ted, having some objective criteria to measure against is useful. Things like, I don't know, communication, responsiveness to requests, that kind of thing. I don't, beyond that, I think there's a lot of room to have conversation about what that criteria looks like. But my recommendation would be that it come not just from council, but from all constituencies to which the city attorney is responsible.
Councilman Craven.
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of what's being said. It's a hard thing, but I mean, there's gotta be a robust discussion within council, and there needs to be, coming out of it, I mean, there's gotta be goals, improvements. I don't know how you narrow it down to a specific couple of items. But yeah, I mean, the city attorney works for the city as a whole, and sometimes, individual council members reach out and they feel like they're not getting the responses they should. So there's two aspects. I mean, it's like performance on how things are handled and the outcome, and then there's performance with members of council as a whole. So I mean, it's a tough one to figure out. I think you just have, there's just got to be a robust conversation in council and with Mike, like Francesca said, collect intel from all the members of staff, and then we come to a consensus on what needs to happen going forward and what was good. And so, just trying to figure out how to narrow this down.
Mike, when is, on the contract terms for the attorney, right? When actually is what is the wording? Everybody here knows the wording for continuing a contract with the attorney.
What is the word that enables us to continue the contract, renewal of the contract? I think it's an evergreen, is it not, Matt?
That's check.
I think it goes until we say it
And
doesn't
so we
go.
say it doesn't. go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Correct.
I
So-
don't believe it has an end date.
So without there being an end date, you don't have a year-to-year contract that you're looking at like you would with the judge, right? So you would need to establish when you want to do that, when we want to review that. Also, we're not reviewing our attorney per se, you're actually doing the firm, because the firm splits different areas up. And so like Matt here doesn't do some things, and some people who in the firm get to do this. So you are evaluating the firm as a
The
whole.
representation.
Okay, all right. So when we look at that, we need to also look at it as a whole, right? I will state this, that in the past year, since I have been here, that various issues have gone on with our attorney's firm, okay? Not necessarily with our attorney, okay? And they have failed to give us information that we needed. They have failed to get us documentation in a timely manner. They have failed to inform us on open cases. And it's an issue. And those things happen month to month. I don't know if you put this, that you're going to evaluate on a yearly event, that if something was to happen and you would want to terminate prior to, how would we would come to consensus if we put that we're going to do this on a yearly basis? We need to be very careful about saying that, because if they have to wait a year and then that's when we can terminate, or are we still able to terminate our contract upon any given moment that the council agrees upon, along with our city manager? So we need to be very careful about if you're going to do this a yearly review, because I would think that this needs to be ongoing, of what occurs month to month, as has been our experience in the last year.
So I'm sorry, can I say something about that? I think the engagement letter allows us, it's both ways. I think they can terminate their relationship with us
They can.
at any time, and we can terminate our relationship with them at any time. I think if we establish a process that allows for an annual evaluation or more frequently if desired, then I think we're covered. I don't think any process we establish overrides the terms of the agreement, legally speaking. I think all we're doing is setting an expectation that we're gonna sit down and look at this every year, and just make sure that we're all good with it, or not good with it. But that we have the right at any time to sit down and decide that there's something more to be discussed. To your point, Mayor, I think this is an example of a time when it would be useful for all of council to have all of the information, because I think that there are times when we don't, with respect to legal issues. And so I don't know if partly what we establish as part of this process is what we expect from the city attorney with respect to regular updates, what those updates look like. Maybe this is that opportunity for that conversation. I don't know.
Well, I think that also we're kind of stepping on toes of our city manager, because he does have that weekly meeting with the attorneys. And so at some point, I think, Mike, you can interject here on how you would like to see that, because I know that.
I think one of the concerns, and the attorney has raised a concern, on so many of our matters, we take them into executive session. And we have to be very careful about maintaining attorney-client privilege.
Mhm.
And so, for example, I have to be careful about the documentation I keep. Much of it is a public record. And I purposely keep it somewhat vague with that in mind. We have residents of the community who will request and do, we have a very robust environment for public information in this community.
Right.
And so that's always a concern of mine, is how much information I put on my weekly notes. But Matt and I do meet on a weekly basis. We do go through these notes, and I feel like I have a very good status myself on our legal matters as they exist today.
That's why this process is so hard, because it's a continual evaluation as
It's-
things come and go.
So I'm
Yeah.
not
And
sure that it's,
The matters you're
Let me
discussing,
finish.
go on,
Are you done?
yeah, sure.
So what I was saying when I was talking about this, and y'all chimed in, was that it's very hard to do this on an annual basis as not being a constant, continual effort
Exactly.
to be able to discuss. So I don't know if us actually evaluating our attorney firm, I did reach out to a couple of other mayors in some cities, and they don't actually have an actual process to do this. They do it on a month-to-month basis based upon whatever the issues could be. And if there's not an issue, they continue to move forward. But there's not anything actually documented for a annual review.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if things aren't getting done and we're not happy, council's gonna have a mood. We're all gonna sit down and have a conversation about it when the time arises.
well, but in the meantime, though, I think the mayor's
But to
point
give
about,
direction to Matt, the person we work with going forward, I don't know what you would put on there. And how
Well,
often you do that.
so this is the question, though, and the thing I think we need to reach some understanding about. City attorney is appointed by council and is ultimately answerable to council.
It is.
They they represent the city as an entity.
Right.
But their constituency is wider than just council.
Right.
At the end of the day, and I hear your point, Mayor, about not wanting to step on toes. But if I may speak plainly, I think the toes we need to be careful about being stepped on are ours. I think the frustration or the challenge is, how do you communicate to 7 individuals on an ongoing basis what's happening in the legal landscape for the city, when we're the ones at the end of the day that are gonna have to come out of an executive session and vote on the path forward, as an example. And so keeping us apprised more frequently than just those few meetings is important in my view. And so I think one of the things we might consider, I don't think we need to sit down with Matt weekly. I certainly trust that Mike will bring to our attention anything urgent, but I do think that a monthly or weekly report from the city attorney to council updating the work the firm has done this month on behalf of the city is one way of doing that.
So I don't mean to interject, I'm gonna interject real quick about you're talking about getting a monthly update of where we are on current items. So when I did talk to the other mayors, that is what happens in other cities. I think at some point, every 60 days, at one of their meetings, the attorney will come and just update them on everything, whether it's on the agenda, even whether it's an agenda item or not, because there may be something that we've been working on since June last year, right? And it hasn't been an agenda item, but just give me an update that, hey, this is just where we are. It's not an executive discussion, it's just a rundown of everything that is happening, right? So I was gonna offer that also at, here tonight and see if that was our answer, but I just don't foresee us like doing a full code evaluation on our attorney yearly suffices for what we need, or it may be just overstepping. I don't know, I just don't feel comfortable with that when we should be talking every month, right? We have a contract with them. If they're not meeting their contracts or the expectations of the council or of the city manager and his employees, then we have a problem. We need to be talking about it, right?
Yeah.
And it needs to be brought up in that item of, we need to discuss it, put it on an executive session, we have that discussion. Because it's not something that should linger, because we need the information to be able to make informed decisions for the city. And Mike needs it, weekly to be able to do his job, because it could be anything that's affecting the city at that point, right? So I don't know, and my thought is not to do an annual review, but to consider keeping it, to where we can talk about it when we need it, And, if y'all feel that there's an issue, by all means, the way to get something on the agenda is you call me, you call our city manager, and we get it on there in executive session, and we need to talk about what's going on with the attorney and why do we not. Let's just say this, we need to talk why we don't have this information from the attorney. It's bothering me. Well, you
No,
have a
I-
right to have that discussion in executive session,
Yeah,
right?
I completely agree. The monthly update should already be on there. And if there's a problem that we're experiencing, we need to retain the right to go on executive session and have a discussion about it. And
Is,
that's the way it needs to be handled.
is there a way on every executive session agenda that we just leave it open to discuss any pending?
We'll have
How
to
do we
word
do
it
that?
specifically, but I've done that many times.
Okay,
Legal matters are ongoing, even when executive recruitment. They're not, it doesn't need update or no status, but no, that's typically what I've done.
are y'all oppose that? Because then we're getting one?
I'm understanding, we might be talking two separate things, and, because, if we're talking evaluation, I mean, this is just me speaking, but I do think that we can owe it to him minimum yearly, like, this is the good, the bad. We need to get feedback also, like you mentioned, from Mike and the staff too, like, because I don't know if there's issues resolving around them that they're not reporting to us, because it's difficult to do that. But then also we have opportunity, even in between that year, to be able to discuss whatever we need to
Well,
discuss.
that's what I'm
So-
saying.
And that's kind of that ongoing thing where that, but at a minimum, I think that over a year, when you look at it, you can at least give them the highlights, like, this is the good stuff and this is the bad stuff that we didn't like, as a whole. And it's collectively from Mike and from council, collectively, like, this is what we want to improve on, kind of thing. But it's not to say we can't say that,
Well, that's
3
right.
months, right?
Well-
I mean,
Right.
we
Well,
have the right to
something-
do that.
Do we need
Something
to
might
do
come
it?
up that needs urgent attention, that we shouldn't wait a year.
That's where I'm going. That's why I said we don't need to do that annual thing because
We're
Yeah.
continually doing.
I'm not sure it's an either or, though, is the point. I think two things. I think it's important to establish some kind of a monthly cadence where we are all up to speed on all the things that are happening, that we have the opportunity, as you said, to go into executive session and get an update on the current legal status of open items. If we have questions about it, that's the place to do it, and that's going month to month. I think that will help us to identify issues before they become critical and to take action, as the mayor said. I think it is also possible, and perhaps we tie this again to a May-June timeframe, around the time we start talking about budget. This is a significant expenditure for the city, and I don't see any problem with annually sitting down and saying, are we still good with this?
Exactly.
Do we still feel good about this? It doesn't have to be negative.
Correct.
It can just be, yeah, this is a relationship we'd like to continue, for the foreseeable future. Guys, this is, kind of where we're at. These are some of the things we've been talking about this year. Just to reiterate, this is our expectation going forward. I don't think it's either or. I think we can do both.
I'd like to go to just a lower common denominator, and that is, I don't think any of us have had an opportunity to establish what our set of expectations are from our attorney. And when you hire somebody, you sit down, when you hire them, and you talk to them face to face, and you give them the expectations of their job. They agree to those expectations when they take the job. Then you measure their performance based on that set of expectations. How well did they achieve? We've never had a chance to even have a discussion with our attorney about a set of expectations that we have as a council. And if there's a difference in our mind about the set of expectations that we have from our attorney versus the set of expectations that our attorney or our firm has about us, from our perspective, that delta is always needs improvement and needs, et cetera.
Right.
You can't successfully evaluate until you're both on the same page about a set of expectations.
100%.
And I don't think we have those.
Just
At
don't know,
least I
I
don't.
don't know how much Matt's expectations differ from ours. It's like, communication, transparency, and things getting done. So, I mean,
Well, but
all
that's pretty
happening as
generic.
fast as possible.
Right, but that's pretty generic.
Yeah, I just don't know like a specific expectation level.
Well, I think if you could write 3 things and throw them in a hat, and all threw them all in the hat, and dumped the hat out, and saw what was in there, we might,
I don't know, I feel like we could get pretty specific.
yeah.
Matt, can I ask you procedural question. Recognize that executive session conversations are challenging to document. Right, but could we, because we don't want to break privilege. So if we were to go into an executive session with the firm to have that conversation about, to have sort of a catch-up session, this is for all of council. This is the current legal landscape. This is what the status is of everything. This is whatever. And then we say, these are the things we want going forward. Could we come out of executive session and make that set of expectations? Is there value to that?
Just depends, and so when you're talking about putting notice on the agenda, you need to do it by specific topic, right? You can't just do a broad thing, legal update. Well, what legal update are we talking about? What am I giving you legal advice?
All open legal matters?
So I would want to list those matters individually. That's the problem.
And then you lose that confidentiality.
No, it's attorney-client privilege.
No, but I'm saying if we talk about it on the
Come out,
outside.
Oh, yeah, I'm not talking about coming out, I'm talking about the individual items. I'm saying as an example, if the result of that conversation is, we want, I'm not suggesting that this is what we would say, but we want a daily update from every member of your firm about everything that they build today to the city, sent to all of council. We would not do that, obviously, but could we come out of executive session and say that that was the result of our conversation? That we have set the following expectations as an action item.
You do it as an action.
So if Mike is getting all the updates, right? And you wanted to know, then you could call city manager and ask him any questions and you don't have to wait till
That
city
puts the
council meeting.
onus on, okay, so two things about that. That means potentially 7 phone calls tonight. And number 2, anything in writing breaks privilege. So that communication needs to come from the attorneys. And my argument would be a weekly, if he's having a weekly summary phone call with the city manager, he's got that information. He knows what the update is. Shoot a quick update to all of council. Privilege is maintained. It's communication from the attorney to council. We don't share that. That's how we all keep up to date without putting additional work on the city manager to answer our questions. That's one option. We could do that on a monthly basis. Maybe maybe Matt sends us out a monthly update and he does it the week before our city council meeting so that there's an opportunity on the executive session for us to ask any questions about what's on that update. Those are just 2 ideas.
And I would say we would notice it on the agenda per individual item, which we can do. Like I said, I've done that many times. I do it with a lot of different people. They keep it on there just in case there's nothing that we miss. There's no update.
So for every open legal item,
You can do it that way.
I don't know that I mean,
I don't think I want all that out there.
are you saying really that we cannot have a
It's not
generic?
I can provide you attorney-client privilege information. If you're wanting to be able to discuss it, you don't need to be done.
Understood that it would need to be done in executive session. I'm saying the agenda item would have to be item specific. We couldn't just say legal update.
Sufficient notice of what is being done.
You can't do it where it's not a discussion, it's just an update.
No,
It just,
because you're discussing.
like if it's a court case.
Yeah.
You just do the right style of case.
Contract, contract, it's the name of the contract.
Yeah, obviously, we need a reoccurring update system. So,
I mean, the main,
but the expectations thing, I think the best way to do it is just call an executive session, set expectations, and just do that when we change attorneys. We do it with Matt, and then it's good until Matt leaves or somebody comes to Matt. And then it's like, because
Well,
it's a
remember I
dynamic
said-
situation.
The expectations aren't only for Matt.
Right, but
for
it's
the firm,
like,
because he doesn't do everything for us.
I know, but he can distill that. You get what I'm saying? We work with Mike, or I mean Matt. So
The problem is, to your point, Mayor, there are other people at the firm doing work that is completely opaque to me. We are paying the money. I have absolutely no idea what they're doing or what the outcome of that is, or who they're talking to.
What man goes for?
Okay, but unless I know to ask the question, I can't get the information, is what I'm saying. And so the result is, we go into an executive session and are asked to make a decision about something that's been percolating for months that is new information to me anyway. And so I think that there is value in doing a both and. Annually, we make an assessment. Are we content with this relationship? Do we want to continue it? What things would we change if we had the opportunity, right? We do that annually. Monthly, I think an update on the entire legal landscape, and if that's just a memo that comes from you or a spreadsheet or I don't know what, so that there is an opportunity for us to look at that and go, okay, that's new. What is that about? I'd like to have more information about that. Then maybe we make the request to put that on an executive session and we can have the opportunity to ask those questions. But I think establishing what that information is, and maybe Mike can give us some guidance on that. He knows what sorts of reports he's getting weekly from Matt. Setting that up so that we're getting a weekly or monthly update that keeps us in the loop means we're not calling to bug Mike. We don't have to imagine what questions we maybe should be asking. We have a better sense of the scope of the representation we're getting. And I think that those two things go hand in hand. I don't think it's an either or option.
Just, the
Okay.
like
All right.
process, the contract with the attorney, and if it's working, if it's not working, I think about that daily. And if it needs to happen, it needs to happen sooner. I don't like to think of a hard date on that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're not putting a hard date on it. I'm saying it's
We're
both.
just gonna have to get together every year in May and just talk about it. And so,
Can't we just add it, wait a minute, let me ask this question. Can we just add it when we're having our budget discussions?
The annual piece, I mean, yeah. I mean, I think that makes sense. That's the best time to have the conversation. Or do we want to continue with this?
Not saying that we can't do it at any given time during the year.
yeah, we need a routine to be able.
But then in addition to that, though, I think we need to set,
This cake's getting bigger. I'm putting more frosting on it.
do you know what I'm saying, though?
Well, I think that if we're discussing it every month, okay, then we're discussing it every month and everybody's up to tune about what's going on, correct? If we're not getting that, then yeah, we're gonna have something to talk about at the end, right?
Right.
But if we're getting it, then the question is just gonna be,
And the
is
question
everybody,
in May, is everybody good with this? Is simple.
and that's why I said, just talk it on the budget, yeah.
Right.
When
I
we
think
get
that
into the
makes
budget,
sense.
we add it to the budget,
But
make it super simple, but that we're not having a formal review, but we add it to our budget items to have a discussion about the attorneys every year.
We all know what's happening. We know how they're operating. And then if any time, anybody can get a collection of counsel.
It presumes that we do.
But then when we get the budget correct, we're talking about the attorney and the contract.
And
Does
we-
that work
And we may be
for you,
overthinking
Mike?
it too.
Yeah,
I
I'm just
think
trying,
it's
I'm
really
going
simple.
over.
Yeah,
I don't feel like this should be very complicated.
yeah, I think.
This
we
is
might-
not, this
Yeah, I
one
think we're
should be,
overthinking
this is a meeting to meeting thing. And if we're not getting what we need, we should not be waiting 6 months to get it.
Yes, I mean, I'm also thinking like something simple, like they may be working on resolutions that he's reviewing, I hope, right? But do we need to know that? Not necessarily, right? I mean, until it's gonna be presented to council, right? Or, some ordinance that he may be reviewing. And do we need to know that? Not necessarily.
So let me just give an example. This is an example, and I mentioned this to Matt the last time he and I spoke. I have had many occasions in the course of my private life to hire attorneys for one reason or another. I have never, in the time I have been represented by an attorney, not been given an opportunity to review legal filings or communications with opposing parties. Never. That has always come to me first as the client. I've always had an opportunity to review it, ask questions, make sure I'm okay with it before that gets done. I don't know who does that on behalf of the city as an entity. I don't know that that's being done. I don't know. I just don't know that. And so I'd like to know how that process is
That's
happening.
a valid question.
Who are our, so
I would hope. it's
I want to
the
be
same
careful not to go too
Start
far. I want to be careful not to go too far down that road because I think Some of this is a conversation for executive session. But those are the kinds of things I think we need to establish. I think we need to set that expectation, right? Have the conversation. Who's responsible for that? Who's responsible for communicating that? Who's responsible for signing off on those things? Who's responsible for communicating with legal about these things? And how are the rest of us getting updated timely? Not 4 months later, not after the conversations have been had.
Not never.
Right, and not never. So I think that's the, and to your point, in terms of a process, I think it's more about setting those expectations, checking in meeting to make sure those expectations are being met, and then as part of the budget process, do
So-
we feel good about continuing?
So here's,
In petition, if I may, I think a baseline will help all of us.
Yes,
And that, in establishing that time frame, like that budget, right, or let's just say May election, whenever, if it switches over at council, at any given point, it can be fluid in this, on the dais as well. So, but then the new members get a full update.
100%.
This is what we've got, because then it's the list. Then you don't have to maybe talk about it the rest of the year until you need to, right?
unless there's an update.
Correct, but then at least you're fully aware, like, these are the active issues.
These are the filing deadlines.
Right.
Here's what we filed. Here's who we spoke to. Here's, just so that we know. We have some visibility.
so Mike, I guess for tonight, what we need to do is get an item on the executive session to discuss the expectations. So that we have baseline expectations of what council wants to see. Okay,
Can we take that opportunity, Mayor, also to get the full, do the one and done, right? Set the expectations, but also get the full breakdown of everything that's currently,
how,
So again, any given week, we talk 2, 3, 4 times on the phone. We're probably tracking somewhere between 20 and 25 issues right now, of varying degrees of involvement with the attorney. We've got lawsuits, I'm looking forward 90 days, trying to give Matt an idea of issues that are coming up, all of the above. The counter to all of this is, how deeply involved in the day-to-day operation of the city do you want to be? That's my question for you.
I don't want to be involved in the day-to-day.
I agree. Please let me continue.
I'm
I
sorry.
agree that you have a legitimate, and I support this 100%, a legitimate need to know about our lawsuits, a legitimate need to know about issues that may blow into a lawsuit. And I think the idea of sitting down and identifying expectations is a good idea. I support that 100% because I need to know what you want to know about. The counterweight to all of this, the balance, everything in balance. The balance to all of this is, my God, we're going to be here till 1 a.m. We literally will be here till 1 a.m. You can go down so many rabbit holes. And I just have a concern for that. You're going to burn yourselves out.
You're speaking to me,
I think you can get too detailed.
Yeah, I don't think any of us want to overstep.
so that goes back to my thing about Mike is getting the update. He has everything now, pretty much, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And so if there was something that you felt that maybe you needed to get something in deeper, you have that opportunity to be able to.
If Mike sends it to me, we've broken privilege.
I understand, but you can ask Mike about it and maybe he can tell the attorney. hey,
So
can you
let me
call
just say as an
so-and-so and
example, you're working on 25 things. I am aware of maybe 5 or 6. And so just as an example, right, can we get some understand, what is the full legal landscape currently on the city's plate? Can we, a summary, just a summary. Can we get a briefing? And a starting point.
Yeah, it could be your hot items, your not so high priority,
Something.
middle, but maybe a summary.
Well, you have to think that in those 25, the judges, stuff from the judges council or judges court is also on there that aren't items that,
Well, and it's planning and development.
yeah.
Yeah,
So there's some things on there that's,
It's
there's a lot of things.
but to let them give us the big ones that we need to know about so that, you know, we're not here until 1 AM.
We don't even need this to be part of a meeting necessarily unless a question comes up about something. Is it possible to just get a monthly report? Here's the people we spoke to on behalf of the city this month. Here's the upcoming deadlines. Here's the hot stuff we're working on for the lawsuits. Here's the stuff that's been parked. There's no update. Something. Monthly.
I'll let the attorney respond to that one. My thought, it's a bit much.
Yeah.
It's
No,
a bit rich.
I trust Mike to handle the day-to-day,
I
and
do
we just
too.
need to be updated with the big things on a broad picture that pertain to council.
I think you are rightly focused on the greatest exposure. Those items that present the greatest exposure. Your board of directors, you should be focused on those items that expose you. If you've got individual questions, I have and I will continue to update as you see fit to have more information. My gosh, 25 items, and that's probably somewhere around the right.
It varies. Keep in mind, one item might turn into 2 or 3.
Right. But again, how far in the day-to-day operation do you want to be? How deep do you want to be? You know, if I give you the full landscape, you know, I'll give you a bad analogy, and it's a really bad analogy. Every rabbit hole begets 3 more rabbit holes, and those three more each. We branch out, and before I know it, I'm not tracking 25 issues anymore. I'm tracking 50, and I'm spending my entire day responding to emails and phone calls.
Yeah.
At some point, I got to do the work, guys.
I think
I got to run your city. Really.
I think council just wants to be more involved, but we don't want to be too involved. We don't want to overstep.
I support that. Again, I've seen it, as Matt has alluded. I've seen where they list the legal matters before the city, the lawsuits, and we'll have to figure out what we think about.
We just need that.
Pending issues, but the lawsuits are all listed. And if there's traction or motion on those lawsuits, then we go in and we discuss those and we can talk about it. Nothing new. We just say it's a negative report. Nothing new.
I think personally, that's all we need.
Yeah, I mean, for me, from my perspective, I don't want to be in the weeds. That's what we have the city to be managing that day-to-day stuff for. But I think as a council, maybe, and for me, my concern would be that there's an item and it's happened already that a deadline's missed or something didn't get submitted, and here we are getting blindsided by it. I'm not saying it hasn't happened recently, but it has happened, and that's the part that could be a shock to us, and we didn't know it was coming. And I think that's more of a concern because then we take a brunt for it as a city anyway, right? And you know, then we look like we don't know what's happening, which is sometimes the case. We don't. But so keeping it, how do you strategically list that, right? And then, I mean, I'm with Francesca, there's probably 5 of them that we can name off the bat and know, like, okay, what's the end in sight look like and what are we doing to get there to wrap those 5 up, right? So that we don't, you know, did we meet those deadlines, right? Did we meet the deadlines? Because, you know, I'm not an attorney, but I don't know those deadlines, but there's deadlines for all these things, you know, that attorneys know, so that if you miss it, now it doesn't matter. Like, we're going to do this anyway.
I have 2 very specific concerns, and I don't feel like I can speak to them in open session, so I'm not quite sure how to handle that.
Then we get it on executive session, send Mike or myself a note to get it on the next executive session. On the agenda.
So to bring this
About
But tonight, if we want.
Or call Mike. Or call Mike.
it's not, I'm talking about,
Or call Mike.
say it.
I know you can't, so or call Mike.
Right now, but
Oh, that's right, we can break out to an executive session.
if we're talking about related to process evaluation.
It's gotta be related.
This is
to-
a specific concern.
Is it related to that?
It is
Process.
related to the evaluation of the city attorney's performance, yes.
What's the thing?
So Mayor, I'd like to request that we go into executive session.
We gotta take that to vote. Everybody wants to go on executive sessions.
I
Make a
move
motion.
we go into executive session to address matter subject to attorney-client privilege regarding the attorney's performance evaluation.
Do I have documentations on it? Is there a form there?
There is a
Because I'll need to add exactly as that motion is announced. Okay.
All right, all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Hey, don't let me leave it to you. Oh my God,
Yeah, we put it in.
I'm gonna leave all my stuff
I'm
here.
making sure I got my documentation. You're not. Call a meeting back to order at 7:54 PM. Okay, and we have no action items, correct? On item 2A. Okay, all right, so continue. Now to the city manager. And I'll start this down here with Councilman, so sorry, point of order, do you need to dispense with the city attorney evaluation by just codifying what we agreed to before we went into executive
Well, we
session?
didn't actually create a evaluation for him, so
Okay,
yeah, we have no action on that.
okay,
It's specific to the performance evaluation.
okay. Okay, all right, Councilman Alexander.
This will be interesting. I'll defer my time to council and, we'll circle back later soon.
Councilman Kraywitz.
Yeah, I'd like to do the same thing as start with Ted.
Councilman Hawkins.
So I looked through all of these performance evaluations that were presented here. I thought all of them were extremely subjective. For the most part, I feel like there should be some tangible forms of measurement in the city manager's performance. One thing that comes to mind was, did the city achieve its budget objective? In other words, did we perform within our budget? That's an objective measure. Okay, there's probably a few key other objective measures that we could add to that I think are critical to evaluating the effectiveness of a city manager. Others are subjective. Most of the items that I looked at here, I felt like had merit. I didn't see any of these that I was absolutely crazy about in terms of which would be the best to use. I liked the example that Mike had in terms of which one is it? The City of New Jersey City Manager Performance Evaluation, the one that was kind of in the spreadsheet format, had 15 items listed inside of it for evaluation. Again, it calls for a subjective measure inside each of those categories, but it includes enough categories to give you a broader scope. But again, for me, a better performance appraisal would also include objective measures. And I've written a lot of performance appraisals, and almost all of them that I ever was involved in were almost always subjective until I got into sales. And when I got into sales, you would be surprised how much that flipped over into objective measurements. In terms of, in sales, you have specific goals, you have specific objectives, and inside of sales, I learned that there is a significant value in having objective performance measures as a part of evaluating your total performance and contribution. So that's basically my 2 cents.
Councilman Watts.
So I think the city manager's performance evaluation comes down to 3 things, basically. One is the standing duties that are assigned to the role by the charter. And those are explicit and spelled out. Then the second one are the goals and objectives that we all agree to for the coming year. The contract says this should be tied to council's strategic goals and priorities. So that would be the second section. And the third section would be a more or less subjective perspective on the role as a whole and the person who's carrying out those duties. I think that they all have value. I think the challenge is that a lot of what the city manager does day to day is a little opaque. We are not involved so much in the day to day. Again, as I said, I reached out to the city of New Braunfels because in my search, they were the only ones who had a charter designated process for this, to find out kind of how they do it. And they do it as a 3-layered process. The city manager does a self-evaluation using the same form staff does a 360 evaluation, and council does their evaluation. Their mayor pro tem is tasked with compiling all of that and putting together a single consolidated evaluation, which goes to the city manager. And the city manager and council then sit down to establish the priorities for the coming year. That may be more involved than we want to take on, certainly for this year, because there are pieces of that that we've not. I'll just say, in order for us to do an effective job, we would have to first, as a council, sit down and establish strategic priorities and goals, which we haven't done yet. I think we're making tremendous progress as a council. I want to be very clear about that, but I feel like it's going to be important for us, and maybe it's the work of the committees, maybe it's, I'm not entirely sure how that happens, but sitting down and reaching some consensus about where we want the city manager focused over the next year, in addition to his ongoing duties and the things he's taking the initiative on. Those are going to be conversations that we have to have that aren't going to happen between now and September 8th. So that's kind of my thought about the evaluation process as a whole. Maybe the conversation tonight is about what do we do for this year to kind of get us started. I think we need to have a conversation not only about performance, but about compensation. And then what do we do to tee ourselves up for next year so that that's more effective and more aligned with what we would expect on an ongoing basis. One suggestion I wanted to make, since council is still working towards a consensus of our strategic priorities and goals, maybe what we do for this coming year is a quarterly thing where we, hey, for the next quarter, Mike, this is the kind of stuff we'd like you to look at. Nobody wants another meeting, so I'm a little reluctant almost to suggest that, but I also don't want to shoehorn us into something that we're obligated to evaluate a year from now that maybe doesn't reflect really the work we're doing. So I just toss that out as an observation. I prepared a draft just for us to discuss that breaks down an evaluation into those 3 parts. I think I should also say, I think it's been the practice, and Sandra, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, that in past years, you've been responsible for compiling this for the city manager?
Last year, I collected several of them, but I did not, but I believe like Mr. Alexander, Ms. Chapman said it directly to me.
Okay, so whatever we decide on, I think it would be a very poor reflection on us if we required a direct report of the city manager to collect or compile that information. I think that that's wholly inappropriate. So I will just mention that as I think we're looking at designating either a member of council or a committee of council to do that compilation work. But I think the city manager is entitled to a single evaluation on behalf of the body and not 7 opinions that he's obligated to sort through.
So, yeah, I think I tried to keep this really simple for this year. I drafted, y'all got it in front of you, I drafted a mock evaluation form, and I think the most effective way to communicate with Mike our goals and our shortcomings with him is it's got to be common based. There's got to be written dialogue there, and the old one didn't really have that. This one, so I broke it down. So I got I thought every aspect of what we're exposed to with the city manager. I have a communication with council for one, implementation of council direction. I got management and leadership, financial management and budget processes, planning and problem solving, community and intergovernmental relations, professionalism and ethics. And then I leave a section for general question response, and I give some broad questions that could get your mind going, and then you have a big section to write a response. And then from there, I gave 3 priorities the city manager can work towards in the next evaluation cycle. And then after that, I think there's still a need for a point system, for year-to-year tracking of this. And so I just took in the rating section, I broke down kind of a general overview of what's required in the charter of the city manager. And then I have exceeds expectation, meets expectations, needs improvement, not able to evaluate. And so all those things outlined in the charter are broken down into ratings. And then at the end, I give you additional ones for comments. Because I think this would be the most effective way to give the city manager an evaluation that gives a lot of, it lets you, it lets you put a lot of detail into what you're saying. It's not just a box that you check. And so, so that's how I have this. And I don't know if y'all have read through it, but that's what I got. So.
I'm gonna go back to Councilman Alexander.
Yeah, so, hearing council, I mean, I think we're all getting on the same page. I mean, I like what I'm hearing from, and seeing on these evaluations. I mean, we know we can't establish all the goals per se right now because we're working on them. And we do have to give Mike, it's only right to give him the evaluation, kind of like a hybrid of what I'm seeing between both these, because, what we measure against is what he's obligated to do by the charter. So I think we like having that as a good way to say, what does that look like? How are you doing? And what are the ratings?
Like having the individual expectation for a charter, but giving you a section on it.
Correct. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I do like that because that's fair, right? I mean, that's what that's the duties.
That's the baseline.
Right. That's the baseline. So I think that's fair. And like I said, I mean, this is a great hybrid of it, right? And I like how you did put priorities, because that helps us start maybe working towards those goals. So, doing that, to me would help start working towards those goals because, I think it could be a little collaborative to know what his priorities are. Right? Sure. What are the priorities for the city? So getting them documented and then checking, are we aligning them together with council? And then how we get it composed to one document. I mean, and I agree, because 7 different opinions doesn't give you good direction, right? So as a body, giving it to him from a single point would be the best source. So
we'll have to have a discussion.
Right, and I think what we may find, depending on what we use to evaluate, is that we're going to say the same thing potentially in 7 different ways.
Right.
So consolidated,
got to make consolidated.
Right, answer is the best way to do it. And I mean, whether that's work with a whiteboard in the back, question by question, and then we document it in one document, and then the evaluation, talk to them. I also like the self-evaluation, whatever form we have, to see how he evaluates, himself based on that criteria, because it kind of works both ways in some aspect. To feel like, what is he thinking that he needs maybe improvement on, and what are we doing good, right? So I do like that aspect for it. I don't the 360. I think is a little too.
Yeah, don't mention that. I'm not advising that.
Okay.
I'm mentioning that they've got a larger constituency, so that maybe makes more sense.
Yeah. So, but that's just my take on that. So.
Thank you. All right. So, right now, I am concerned with our city manager and with us taking so long to get this completed. Okay. One thing, when our new city manager came on, we had an item on our agenda which meant every executive session was to discuss the city manager's job or employees. Remember? Mm-hmm. And he was very adamant about making sure that was removed from our agenda, right? Because he didn't want to be subjected to every month or every council meeting to him being reviewed. So right now, I'm feeling that this is taking us a really long time to get something done that we need to get in his hands, and we're already late for. Okay. I know that everybody has their idea on which one they like best, right? But at this point, we owe it to our city manager to get this done and to leave with an idea of what we're going to do. I know nobody liked what we had and what Ms. Ham had, our city secretary had provided to us, but right now that's what we have from the city, correct? And you have the options to write in there whatever you want, and it'd be presented to whoever y'all choose on council to decipher that, put it together. It may not be, but you can always, like I said, it's a worksheet, you can add on it if you want. But right now, we're gonna go back and forth, how many more meetings or how much more time to figure out which form and which questions we're going to use. We need to have a form. If we wanna revisit this in 3 months and say, okay, now we're gonna come up with a process, then as council, we need to do that. But we owe it to our city manager to get this done. And to leave here tonight with the way we're going to do this and on which form we're gonna put it on.
Yeah,
And so I understand that not everybody is happy with it. But it's what the city provided us with, okay? And if we wanna change it, then let's get together and work on a change document that we can use. But I don't think it's fair to our city manager that we're already late on this. And now we're gonna drag this out 3 more meetings to figure out what the questions are gonna be.
no, I wanna hash this out tonight.
So, well,
This,
this needs to be sit down and everybody needs to, we're gonna have to go question by question by question by question to figure out which one we're gonna add to this. We'll be here
This
until
one-
1 o'clock tonight.
and
I
this
know
one
you like your
encompasses-
form. I know you like your
it
form.
has everything to all one day,
Everybody
it
likes
just
their
has-
form.
more option for written dialogue.
Here's,
That's all.
here's my concern about the form we were given. We can't tie it back objectively to anything that he is obligated to do under the charter. This is,
But that's why I said we have to develop a form that meets the charter. And if we need to meet in 90 days to go back and look at that, then by all means, let's get a process in place. We need to have a process and a document in place.
Mayor, if I may, I think that like, Ms. Watson included the charter recommendations in her evaluation.
Yes.
And that's kind of what,
I did too.
and I guess that was my thought, and that's why I think that that ties that to the baseline of the charter, which is.
I understand, but how long is it gonna, for us to figure out which questions are gonna go, which document are we gonna go to? Ted likes one, you like
I will
another
say-
one, he presented his and he presented
I will
hers.
say,
So
I
every-
read Francesca's before the meeting, and it is a lot the same. We cover a lot of the same issues.
Yeah, we're talking the same language, just need to get it down to,
And I'm not hard
Well,
to
I think, at least is what I'm hearing, right? I mean, Jason's kind of has it, and like what I said, it's like a hybrid that we need to
I think,
consolidate.
I think that this needs, no matter what we do, we need to come up with a full process, and this may be something, whichever one we use tonight, we use it for now, but then we meet as a group to do a process and to come up with a document that's gonna stay for time, for the future.
I
So
agree
our
with that,
options are to do it with the old form tonight, even though it is a
and I would not be.
sort of a broken process that doesn't really go anywhere.
No, I didn't say
As
the
a-
old form, you don't have to agree to the old form, we can agree to one of these if we want, but we can't incorporate all of these into one.
Understood.
So we either pick one tonight, that we get him his information, and we work with it, and in 3 months, I don't know, put it out to one of the committees that, can do it, and figure out who's going to put it together for next year,
So you're
and a
saying,
process.
So
you're
tonight,
saying you want to pick one of these tonight and use it.
Exactly, because he is owed that.
agree.
It
So
just sounded
can I
like-
just recap? So the decisions tonight
Pick a
are,
form,
which form will we use? How will it be compiled? And then we need to have
for
at
this
least
process
for
only.
this process only, how will it be compiled? And then we need to have some conversation about, in a perfect world, that evaluation process would include setting goals for the coming year. I don't know that we can do that as part of
But
this,
that's why I said we
time.
could, 3 months,
but we
we could,
could say, and I think we would owe it to him to ask, make sure that he's okay with that. Would you be okay with us putting off that piece of it for 3 months so council has a chance to have those conversations around the goal setting? So that tonight what we're deciding is the form and the method of compilation.
yes, and You
I'd be
know,
fine with that.
and hey, would you be fine with doing your own self-evaluation also part of it? In 3 months, later down the road, not now.
Sure.
I just think it's always good to hear the input of the employees.
So we take a second
Okay.
and we read these.
So now we're gonna make a decision on one of these. I don't care if you don't like the one from last time, that Ms. Ham approved, Mr.
I don't like.
Krawitz has given us one, Councilman Watson has given us another, there's 3 in here from Jersey Village. And, so we just need,
So let's
there's
take a
one
couple
from
minutes.
Midlothian.
You have an extra one?
An extra one of what?
Yours.
Everybody should have. Yeah. But yeah, that should be one.
Oh, okay.
It is, it's
It's right here. It's a green one.
Okay, so,
From my perspective, I like, now Jason, I mean, I know it's similar to yours, and that's why, I mean, I'm okay, but what I like is that for Francesca's is that
Theirs is a little more structured. This is just.
correct, well, she states the charter, right, so that I know that the
Yeah,
charter,
Like, I have
that
that.
they're being addressed by the charter.
Yeah, I didn't state that.
Right, and I mean, to me,
So
it's just
yeah.
like, it's there, we're following the charter, that's a section.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Yeah.
And there's room at the back of mine for your personal, where are the areas of improvement? What do you think?
Right,
There's room.
and that kind of goes back to
Okay,
like the first
so-
form.
So
that
what-
had-
if we're going to use this one, oh, wait a minute, I wanna hear what Councilman Hawkins has to say down there.
I think we should read them first.
No, we don't need to read. We've already read them.
I think
Just read all this.
both of these two proposals are better than what I would be able to do an evaluation with based on the one that we were originally given.
Okay.
So in that context, I'd go with either of these. If one is more in
Okay.
line with the charter, then that's probably,
All right, so I'm hearing what you're saying. We just need to take out the part where the part 2 is, I think, where the annual goals and performance objectives are, and
Part 2 assesses performance against the annual goals and would not be, part 2 is not scored this cycle, is what I said on the.
that's for this review period,
Yes,
okay?
it just
So,
says-
all right, so we'll take 2 out of there, and then we can do 3, and you'll take out areas for improvement at this point, because what are you gonna put in there if we're gonna?
Well, so this ties into the question about how we're compiling. I think that's a subjective thing, right? You may feel that there's an area for improvement. Jason may feel that there's an area for improvement. How we assemble those and provide those to, that's a compilation question.
So let's make a decision if y'all are good with the way this is sitting now, then we can vote on this.
Is yours based, all these questions based on
So-
the charter?
Yes.
If I may real quick for clarity, and this is still to be rated by exceeds, meets, partially
Right.
meets, right? So that's the way all these would be rated, right? Okay,
In part 1.
right,
Part 3 is narrative.
right.
Could we add like
Mine-
exceeds 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, because then he can add it up and he can average it out of everybody's. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do. Let me just say, I looked at the International City Managers Association. They published a handbook last June. And they are getting away from, they no longer recommend a numerical scoring system because it's too
Right,
rigid.
it is.
So that's their recommendation, and I asked Sandra to include a copy of the handbook so y'all could look at it. They are pretty strongly recommending getting away from a numerical thing. I don't,
So,
it's absolutely tab 3, thank you. So I just throw that out there. I'm not, if we decide we want to do a numerical thing this year,
well, the
I
way-
The only reason I was saying that is
I
because we're in this time constraint right now, and whoever does it is gonna have to
so
come up with
Well,
some kind of
and-
exceeds, meets,
and-
or whatever.
the way
Maybe
I-
to that point,
Wait,
Well,
maybe
I
to
gotta
that
talk
point
about-
is that, because if we have a rating of a 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, right, for example, on one of those, then you can average it potentially, instead of having a subjective number, right? Now you can average it. I think I'm a point system, like I
the
get
point
that,
system just
right,
like
I
year to
don't-
year tracking.
I only get it because now you get an average.
It doesn't give any
Right, but
useful feedback from Mike. It's just It gives you a way to track it through the year.
through average,
That's my,
right.
and the way I structured this, it's all narrative except for the ratings part, which is, I'm just saying, yours is the same way, it just has
No,
a rating.
I see your
Mine
point, and if the decision is that this year we have to do a numerical thing because that's what we're equipped to do.
Until we sit down,
And we have a conversation about how to do that.
so we'll just, like 5,
So 5
Yeah.
exceeds 4,
so
3,
that
2,
he
1.
can, whoever adds, or whoever's gonna do it, just adds it, puts it in there.
Well,
You
to
still have your
I'm
assessment,
okay. I'm
be
okay.
honest with you, that starts to give that one answer, like, as a whole, by taking the average.
right,
You know what I'm saying? It helps us develop one average.
Yeah, but the whole purpose of this is useful feedback for the city manager.
Yeah, I mean, we'll still have the,
it's still there, because you still
Right.
get to write
we
it.
still have to add that
Okay.
to it.
The
Alright.
one thing I would say is not observed should not count. We should not make that 1. That should be 0. It should, in other words, it should not count towards the average,
Yeah, I agree.
right? If somebody says not observed, it could skew the average down if we score
Like
that.
mine, I have not able to evaluate. It's
Well,
the
we've
same
got.
thing.
Okay, so we're gonna,
So it would be a no,
Five,
so it would be 0.
no, you'll have a 1, 2, 3, 4.
So not observed is a 1, and
It's
that
a
drags
0.
that potentially.
It's a 0.
No,
It's a
it's not a
no.
0. It's a no.
Oh, it's a 1, yeah, so you gotta do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
No,
that's
not
right.
No,
observed,
it's no
it shouldn't have any
There's no
effect
score, no
on
numerical
the
value.
rating.
Well,
But
that's
not
right.
observed should be not counted, so it should be 4, 3, 2, 1.
Like I said,
not
on
5,
mine,
4.
I am not able to evaluate,
Okay,
so that's.
wait,
all.
So exceeds should be 4, meets should be 3, partially meets 2,
2, it
1
does not meet.
does not meet, and not observed doesn't count towards the average,
Correct.
not
You just
scored.
wouldn't divide it by that amount.
Right,
I mean, I guess I'm just more of a 5 fan because your middle average is a 3. And if you're above the 3, you're working toward being
I
really,
get it.
really good.
We-
And if you're below the 3, then you're struggling.
I get it, for this year,
We're gonna do 4.
Okay,
But
Let's-
if we can agree with that. then
Okay,
let's
so we'll
go.
do the 4, the not observed doesn't count, and it doesn't count to the average. All right, great. Okay, we got past that. Everybody else is good. We're good with what's here on the comprehensive plan. We will get the annual goals and performance objectives. On part 2 won't be scored for this review period. We'll put in here the summary of what the strengths are based upon
and
the
understanding the
documentation. And then we can do the areas of improvement will not apply.
areas of improvement will be subjective
Subjective until we, yes,
until we, right?
until we do this in 3 months when he's ready, right?
So can I say something? On mine, the ratings, it has exceeds expectations, meet expectations, needs improvement, not able to evaluate. So not able to evaluate is null, so you have 3 options with a middle option.
Well, I understand, but we're gonna go, it seems like we're gonna use this form, so we're gonna do it this way.
And what I'll do with everybody's, if
Yes.
everybody's okay with this, I will update this and mail it out I'll send it to Sandra to mail out to council.
Yes, send it to Sandra, it needs to be updated on
I'll do that.
what needs to be updated, send that out to council. Council will send these back to somebody that we appoint up here to,
How do you want to handle
Yeah, I
compilation?
was gonna say, how we can do that.
well, so, somebody needs to be the person in charge of council that will do the compilations here, correct?
Yeah.
And then actually write up the strengths, and because your strengths don't just have to be 1, it can be 6 different
100%.
sentences, right?
So
So we would just add anything that's good or bad to those situations, just somebody needs to type it up and somebody needs to calculate it.
I will since I lobbed this grenade, I will offer to do that, either by myself or with some other person. If you want to do that, I'm not saying that I need to do that, but I recognize that I'm the one who lobbed this grenade, so.
Okay, and then we need to have, and then we need to have a date that this needs to be turned in so it can be compilated. And also on the day that we have to put it on the agenda for his review and
September
executive
8th.
session. Oh God, September 8th is super long, isn't it? How many proclamations are on?
There's 4 proclamations.
Including the one we're adding?
Yes.
And then there's 4 items on the,
I have the draft.
I don't have it in front of me. Okay,
Ted has volunteered to help me, so if you guys wanna appoint it to us, we'll get it done.
I have no problems appointing that because I have no time on my schedule
I
right
don't have any issue with that.
Okay, and then this
So
has
the-
to be done, let's put your thing for September 8th. Sorry, not your thing, that was very rude. Your evaluation, discussion for executive session on September 8th. He deserves that. And then we also need to come up with a date to have or figure out when we'll have the other,
So
in
let's,
that executive session.
so let's say this, so just to make sure that I understand, I will go home tonight and I will make the updates that you have requested. I'll get it to Sandra. Sandra will send it to everybody.
Everybody gets it
If
done?
everybody gets it back by September 1st, that gives you guys all of next week.
Okay,
Does that work?
that works.
Then that gives me and Ted a week.
Wouldn't give them that long.
Well, that gives us the following week to meet and do the compilation. Then, as a matter of process, how do we get the compilation, Matt? Council should have an opportunity to review the compiled document and make sure they're good
So I
with
said
it
we would do it in the executive session on the night on September.
before we sit down.
Correct.
So are we gonna
And we
send
get that done.
our comments to you?
You're gonna send, your council will send comments to
Your
me and
form
Ted,
goes to her.
to
You and
me and Ted.
Okay.
Me and Ted both,
Okay.
by September 1st.
Okay.
Right, I just wanna make sure that we're,
Let's say no later than September 1st, please.
I've made that request.
I don't get back to August.
And Mike, I did not forget that you did. And so we can do that. We can go on executive and finish the little thing and then
Just
come
to
out
make sure
with the
everybody's
rest
good
of
with the
it
compilation.
here and open for you.
Let me think about that.
If it's his item on the agenda, you request it be done open.
Well, yeah, we'll do his in open, but what I'm saying for us to get the documentation together. Remember, we're gonna discuss it that night before we meet with them, the final.
Here's the, okay, question. If they're gonna send everything to us and we're gonna be responsible for compiling it, council needs to have an opportunity to review the compiled evaluation before it's given to him, to make sure it accurately reflects what we're gonna say. That's the piece she's saying would be done in executive, and then we would come out and make the presentation to him in public if that's what he wants to do. The actual issuance of the evaluation.
This is documentation part is an executive session.
Yeah, I would agree. You can't do it.
You just gotta have one presentation, is that what you're saying? That's it? We don't get to see it then?
They wouldn't get to see the compilation. He's
Right,
saying
we
you
would-
don't get to see the compilation.
Is that what you're saying?
It's, you can distribute, but you cannot discuss it until it has to be for informational purposes only. It has to be part of the agenda, part of the executive agenda.
That's why we wanted to
That's
do
what we're
that,
saying.
yeah.
I thought
That's what we
were
wanted to do. And then it would be finalized. We'll come out of there with the finalized and we will do his in open
He's
session.
saying, but he's saying,
But if you're going to dig into executive session, we'll hammer out that.
okay, but so we'll put the compiled thing together. We will send it to council information only. Here's the compiled thing. What if somebody says, oh, no, that's not okay with me?
They can't.
That's why we have to say in an executive session.
He's saying,
That's why.
he's saying,
That's what they would voice that in the open meeting.
okay, so that none of it happens in executive session. That's his
Well,
call. That's Mike's
it's,
call.
open meeting, yeah, that's part of it.
So basically, well, what I'm worried about is that something gets mistyped and it says, no, he doesn't do this very well when it was supposed to say, no, I know he does do very well, right? And I don't think that I want that out of the session and then that be thrown out there when it's incorrect, number one, and number two can affect him, for an error that was on the document.
So that's clear, you're right, so that can be immediately addressed, it'll be in the minutes, there's an error. It won't become the official minutes.
Okay.
So there's.
So we actually don't have an official document. We'll do the official document in open session.
That's what you want.
Yes.
So we do send it information only to council in advance of the meeting, but we don't discuss it And any issues with that document are raised in open session.
Yes.
Okay.
If
As
that's
long
what
as,
you want,
if that's what he wants, that's his call.
correct.
Can you repeat that again?
But that
Make
is
sure I
not
understand.
his evaluation yet until we give it to him, right? Till council agrees that it's correct to give it to him.
It's a compilation of everything. Kind of is an evaluation. If you're going to just, so I've seen it done happen several ways, right? So if you're doing an OSIP board, a lot of times people like to discuss, okay, here's what was put together. We're not gonna discuss anything that's part of this until we give the person who's subject of the evaluation executive session a chance to sit to give the actual evaluation part. Here's what was combined, and you call them in, and then that's what you would ask to go into open session.
Oh, I guess that's not what we're thinking. I think we're a little bit off. So when they add up everything and they put together the one document, we just want to be able to look at it and make sure, yes, that's what we're all agreeing that this is his evaluation.
And he's saying we can send that to you for information purposes, but we can't discuss it.
Can, and so if that's what, yes, we're agreeing, so you're going through all the different points that people have, which is part of what the actual evaluation is. So that's why it is technically an evaluation. Right? I mean, I get what you're saying, and you want to make sure that you're not putting something out there that's not correct, or just taking it what wasn't intended, what was made to.
Well, maybe
But-
that, what's the point of doing one thing? We can just go individually.
Yeah, then you
Well-
should just do individually.
I mean, honestly, there's no point in it because we're worried about something getting
And misconstrued.
misconstrued and we can't talk about it, then might as well go individually. Here's your review.
Yeah, that's the beauty of having open
Right.
minutes. You can correct anything on the official minutes. We'll read what was actually.
Right.
And,
Right, so if everybody gets the compiled evaluation ahead of time, anybody who takes issue with anything, you raise that first in open session and we fix it.
It's a cleaner way to do
It's
it,
a cleaner way to do
but
it.
then we're just not gonna see it.
Okay.
until that's-
You'll
So
see
then
it.
I will get this,
You'll see it before.
I will get this and go through that in open session, correct? We will just read what we have compiled in open session.
if that's what he's requesting.
Okay, then that'll happen. So it'll be for me to get that, well, I'll have it, I guess, and I'll just read whatever you sent. Okay. All right, and then Sandra will need a copy. So she can put it in the agenda.
We good with that?
Okay,
And then we're gonna put it on the calendar for sometime in the spring for us to sit down and come up with a better
so, yeah,
process for,
or, yeah, somewhere in the winter is probably where things are a little bit slower.
and then we'll, sometime in the next 3 months, we will have a strategic conversation about what goals
Yes.
and priorities we wanna, and you're okay with that, Mike?
Sure.
So do we discuss salary, any increase of that? When does that discussion come?
In open session, that's what he's asking for.
So then we gotta discuss, like, if he's gonna get a pay increase.
Yep.
And what that percentage is,
We do that in open session, because
I
that's what
mean-
he's asking for.
and that's another thing we gotta think about.
It's supposed to be in the budget. We didn't discuss it in the budget.
I know, that's my, exactly. I mean, that's why I know we need to do this if we're gonna give.
The other contingency plan,
No, it's, we include in there 3%, 11 and 2% for all staff members. So it's in line with the balance of staff. We've incorporated into the budget the 3% merit and the 2% COLA for all positions, to include the manager position. You may elect to do something different than that, but that's the
Standard.
placeholder that is in the budget as we speak.
Is it 2% COLA and 3% merit?
It was 3% COLA and 2% merit.
You said it both ways, so I just wasn't sure. which one was the one.
I misspoke
That's
on
fine.
one of those.
One of those is wrong. Okay,
I was 50% wrong.
okay.
All right, and then, okay, and then I guess I'm signature on that too. Okay, hang on.
Yeah.
Has he signed the contract?
No, the mayor's signature. Like for the
Okay.
evaluation, right?
Yep.
Official.
It's up to
Okay.
us to decide. That's the thing. We decide.
But no, he's, the
Well,
mayor signs the contract.
I think it
Oh,
would be, I think it's the mayor being the.
On behalf of council.
Yeah, because the mayor signs the contract. Okay. All right, what do we need to do with
Do
that?
we need to vote on that?
Y'all made a motion to split the item.
Wait a minute. I'm getting there. I just gotta, let me get my footing on what I gotta say. Okay, I'm making a motion that we adopt the city manager review form dated August 2026 that was submitted by council member Francesca Watson, with the changes that we have made on there, with also the expectation that we would not address the expectations for the upcoming remainder of the year at this meeting, that we will address that at a future council meeting. And we also will formally have a process later to formally draft a process and a form for the year 2027, the next evaluation. Can I get it all?
We need to
The
talk about
goals.
compilation and.
Oh, well, do I need to add all that in there? Okay. Okay, each council member will fill out a form, and we'll have it turned in to Councilman Watson and or to Councilman Hawkins by September 1st for compilation, which will be presented to the mayor for the agenda, as an agenda item on September 8th. Okay. There, I need a second.
Second.
Okay, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. All right, motion passes.
Thank you.
Moving on to what's next on here is any public comments not related to posted agenda items. I don't have any public, so public forum is open and closed at 8:37 p.m. And the reports by elected officials and city staff is like, I've got a couple of things real quick. Just FYI, we are under a boil water notice again for Texas Water Company. So make sure we've posted, but just so we know that that's there. I don't know how long that will last. We have I think that's it. It's coming up in the next week.
Yeah, the
So-
ribbon
oh,
cutting.
Oh, the
for
ribbon
Highway
cutting,
46 is on the 26th
so 26.
at 10 a.m.
I know.
I'm gonna get my teeth drilled on while you guys are out there, so I'll miss that.
Well, I was gonna make you talk instead of me talk. They've got me on the agenda. Anyway, all right. Okay, well, you'll be missing us. And then,
Will.
Labor Day is coming up before our next meeting, so also, city offices will be closed on the 6th. Is it the 6th or the 7th?
Monday.
Monday, Labor Day? Okay,
7.
and, I think that's all I have, all right?
Yeah, the boil water notice, it doesn't say the service area, it just says the water treatment plant, but it is Bulverde, so.
It is Bulverde, and all the same that was in the prior.
I know.
So,
It was just a question.
anyway, we have that, this next city council meeting is on the 25th, which would be next, Tuesday.
It'll be a 10
Labor Day is Monday the 7th, Mayor.
Correct, yes, it is. Okay. Anything else? If not, we're adjourning this meeting at 8:38 p.m.
Yeah, thank you for delaying your departure today to make this possible. I appreciate it.
Thank you. 11 o'clock.
I appreciate it.
Safe travels.
Thank you.
Through the monster.
I was
Yeah, no.